Hey, welcome to the SaaS AdLab podcast, where we bring to you the stories of SaaS founders, entrepreneurs, and CEOs. Today, I have with me Jamey Meeker. He is a marketing director over at RoleModel Software, and they do custom software. I'm super excited to have you here. Before we even started the recording, we started to dive a little bit into what we're going to be talking about and stuff like that. But before we did, so I put a hard stop there on Jamey to kind of save that juice for the podcast. But first of all, thanks so much for joining me, man. It's a pleasure having you here. And like I said, go ahead and take it away. Introduce yourself a little bit and tell us what you're all about.
Yeah, man. Thanks so much for having me on, Luis. This is a great opportunity, so I appreciate it. And so my background's all about communication. I studied marketing in college with a minor in supply chain. I went to Appalachian State in the mountains of North Carolina and loved it. Since then, I worked for a lot of different product companies and focused on international communication and implementing brand strategies and communication structure with products to different countries. Got to go to Australia and Spain for a little while too. For me, my passion is conveying a message to a targeted audience. I've obviously that's almost the motto of marketing, I guess. But for me personally, it's the fun is connecting people with the right product or the right service. And so that's kind of the fun marketing game. So I'm excited to be on with you today and get to talk through some of these topics. Now I'm the marketing director for a custom software company in Holly Springs, North Carolina. We tailor software solutions to small to medium businesses. We also have some Fortune 500 companies that we've worked with. So keeps me on my toes and is a lot of fun.
Yeah. Right. So I know one of the topics that we wanted to talk about today was, messaging specifically and how you guys kind of use that to your advantage. And correct me if I'm wrong here, Jamey, but it sounds like, the company has been around for about 20 years, maybe a little longer. Yep. I'm not sure. And
that's right.
You came in, and one of the things that you noticed initially was, there's kind of a misconnect here with, who we're going after, what our message is, and how we're trying to, communicate the value of the company to those people, right? So you're doing custom software, small and medium-sized businesses are coming to you, and they're looking for a solution. I think one of the more interesting things about this too is how do you approach, hey, CEO, hey, owner of, RoleModel, I think there's a problem with our messaging strategy. Like, how do you realize that that's an issue first? And how do you begin to, tweak those things? And what kind of results do you see from something like that?
Yeah, sure. Good question. I'm going to start with the company's tagline and then kind of work backwards onto as how we got there, if that makes sense. And that kind of will do a good job of explaining the process, right? So at RoleModel Software, we craft custom software tailored to your business by collaborating with you. So when I first joined with RoleModel, their 20 years of success had mostly come from high quality work for good clients that referred other clients to us. So almost all of the activity was grown off of the previous success, if that makes sense, which allowed RoleModel to be very successful for a long time and provide good solutions to a lot of different companies. But if you know the world of software developers and programmers, they're very analytical. They're very totality focused. Like you have to get your whole scope defined and really, word heavy operations kind of a situation. And when it came to marketing, it was really difficult for a custom software company not to want to say we do everything.
Right.
And that's the struggle with marketing for a custom sort of application. Luis, you and I mentioned before the recording started how marketing fails when you take a generic approach to any situation. Marketing is successful when you're able to customize your approach and be specific to the domain you're marketing for.
Right.
And for us at RoleModel, it was pivotal for us to recognize that saying everything to everybody means that nobody hears anything.
Mhm.
Versus if you start taking a simple message, breaking it down, and taking the listener onto a journey where you're able to spoon feed them information, then number one, you're adding clarity to what your business offers. And number two, you're opening the minds of the reader to see more opportunities or to maybe envision themselves using your service or whatever your company provides. So for us, we had pages and pages of things that we'd done well, services that we'd offered. And when I came in, it's like, hey, this is all really good stuff, right? None of it's wrong, but nobody's reading it, right? So we need to backtrack and think about number one, you got to say what you do first. So for us, we help businesses. We start with consultation. Everything RoleModel does is about communication with the client.
Right.
So we sit down with someone through consultation. We have long-term relationships with our clients. And so the first thing we say is, look, if there's a cheaper option, then we want you to do that. We want you to find that route. But if the option is with us through custom software, then the only way both of us are happy is for it to be a collaborative process where you're seeing value daily. You know that the solution that's being built is specifically tailored to you. So I was like, look, guys, we got to say that, right? We got to say that simply and clearly so that whoever sees the company is going to understand. So that's where the tagline came out of: custom software tailored to your business through collaboration. And that gave us the foundation to then be able to say, these are our areas of expertise. These are the industries that we have performance history with, right? And it changes RoleModel wanting to say, we do everything, to saying, no, we have custom solutions for your business. And these are the areas that we've had experience already.
Which technically, I mean, you're not saying you don't do everything, right? Like you still,
Exactly.
if somebody has an idea, you're still going to take care of it, but you're just making that specific person feel like, well, they don't take care of everything, but they can take care of whatever I bring to the table, essentially.
Yeah, and that's kind of it, right? Is that you want to say that we do everything because that is our niche. Our value is in the space where off the shelf software just doesn't cut it.
Right.
And so, but you've got to be able to say that effectively, where you're not saying whatever you do, we can do it, because the last thing you want is someone to have the vision for Facebook and expect it to be $5, right?
Right.
We want to manage expectations, but also tell the company we're helping that, look, like, we only win when we win together. And so let's take the stress out of it. Let's start with the conversation and then really get down to what your needs are. And if your need is a fit for our business relationship, then great, let's move it forward. If not, we believe in the value of long-term quality relationships. So if we turn someone away and say, hey, look, this isn't the right fit right now, here's a better solution for you. Well, then, 3-4 years later, we've had a lot of those guys come back and say, hey, we're actually ready for this custom software now. And so rather than, I think some marketers feel that leaving information out is potentially negative to your brand. But the reality is that you got to think of it about what you're focusing on. If you're focusing on quality things, then you're also piquing the interest of those outliers while really effectively addressing your target audience. I think it's easy to weaken your message to your target audience by trying to include the outliers rather than flipping that around and focusing on your target audience and
Right.
trusting the outliers to kind of catch on.
I like that, because then you're not appealing to that specific person, right? You'd be
Right.
trying to go after the other ones as well, which is obviously not what you want to be doing, especially if you have custom software.
That's right. Yeah. And I know that you have a lot of SaaS companies come on here, and it naturally changes. Marketing strategy changes when you're dealing with a specific solution versus an opportunity kind of landscape. Um, but in a different way, we kind of see ourselves very similar to that, in that your solution is out there, right? We broadcast the fact that if you're paying for a box solution, what if it doesn't do 10% of what you need it to do? And you've been getting by with that for a while, and that 10% could cost you the opportunity to scale, new revenue. And we encourage the conversation of looking at these custom software initiatives as an investment, right?
Oh,
And it's setting your business up to be able to scale and operate at full capacity, rather than working around loopholes that your software is costing you, right?
mhm.
So in that way, it does kind of blend into the product category, where it's like, this will be an asset for you, but it's vapor right now. We got to take your ideas, consult with you, and figure out what you need, and then that's what we deliver.
Right.
Um, yeah.
Like that. So how easy of a process is it? Like, what are the, actions that you have to take in order to make this messaging switch? Like, it's not just, waking up one day and deciding, okay, we're going to completely switch out, our tagline and how we are communicating our value proposition to our prospects. Like, there's got to be, I don't know. I'm trying to think of it as a marketer, right? Advertiser. And a lot of the things that we do in order to figure things out is a lot of A/B testing, right? So switch out the
Yeah.
headline on the landing page, or try this creative piece on an ad. What is something that people could do? And also, like, what are some of the symptoms that you start to see before, you know, switching out the messaging is one of the solutions to whatever problem you may be having? Like, is it just people not, I don't know, biting, for lack of a better word,
Sure.
to your ads or to your marketing collateral and stuff like that? Or what are some of the things that happen when your messaging is not where it should be?
Yeah, it's a loaded question. Whole lot of different aspects to that whole makeup, right? So, um, it's somewhat of a balance, right? So when you're building a website, you want to be conscientious of your SEO. So the organic searches that end up matching the content on your website is very important. But a lot of marketers take that too far, where they say, okay, we need every word relevant in our industry on our landing page, right? And what does that do? Well, someone finds your company because of that SEO, clicks on it. It's a word dump. They bounce right off of it. That hurts your click through rate, which then hurts your SEO. So it will send you in and then spit you right back out. And everybody knows Google is a fickle master. They're always changing their requirements and their performance metrics. And so you have to be really conscientious of that balance. For me, when I started with RoleModel, because of the track record the company had and the success of the efforts that had been done for a while without successful marketing, um, it was up to me to really show the importance of the concepts that I was bringing to the table. And so we were actually launching a new framework called Lightning CAD, which is a capability that we developed that allows for user-guided CAD design to be housed in a browser. So we have a new example of that framework is called Doc Designer, where companies can sketch out a doc in 2D while the system builds the building requirements of the dock and spits out blueprints, parts lists, all that stuff in real time. It's an incredible selling tool for companies. Big segue. However, that framework was an opportunity for me to start from scratch and show the company what message flow meant to traffic generation, to lead, retention, I guess you could say. And the success of the Lightning CAD brand gave me the, not foundation to change the role model brand, but more of the confidence in the company, to
Mhm.
see these marketing efforts starting to share some fruit, and so with the role model site, it was essentially taking all of these really good things that they were saying and breaking them down and saying, okay, look, this thing is supposed to be addressed to this person. This segment is the thing that can be said to everyone. How do we organize this subset of data to structure it in such a way that the person that needs to see it is going to see it
Right.
versus it being on the third page of buried under other content? So we started small, by breaking down a tagline that could summarize what the company's mission statement. Um, then after that, you think of the messaging strategy as a progression. I always circle back to marketing concepts to talk about how difficult face-to-face communication is. People all the time uh, miss the point being said by someone directly across the table from them.
Mm.
And then you expect marketers to be able to target their audience perfectly
Without,
across a computer screen,
yeah,
right? Without any personal connection. So you have to really be consciously aware of the information lost between personal communication to third party communication that's specifically targeted to completely unpersonal messaging on a web page, right? That's three massive leaps, making that communication more difficult.
right.
So what's the answer? Simplify, simplify, simplify.
Mhm.
If your start of communication isn't understood, then you will lose that lead 100% of the time. So you have to start small, be concise, and let that progress on itself so you can add more sophisticated information beyond it. So a great resource, for our company, and I think for marketers all around, is author by the name of Donald Miller. He wrote Marketing Made Simple and Foundations of Story Brand, things like that. The concepts are inherently simple, which is the beauty of it. It talks about a marketing message as a storyline, how every successful story has a character that has a problem, that meets a guide, that finds a solution um, that either leads them to success or helps them avoid failure. And in our messaging, it's really the same way. A lot of brands fail when they think of positioning themselves as the hero. Companies all the time, you'll see it on websites everywhere. The first thing they want to say is about me, me, me. We've had 100 plus successful projects. We've, given 500% return on this company's revenue, whatever it is. Um, well, your potential client doesn't care. He doesn't
Right.
care about your success. He wants to know that you're the person that helps me succeed, right? And so that transitions kind of your perspective on what you're addressing. Rather than saying, "Hey, these are the things we've done well," you want to say, to let your target audience know you're talking to them first, and then secondly, let them know that you're there to help them, rather than talking about yourself. And that's been a big translation of strategy for us, was that rather than saying 4 paragraphs of things we've done well, now we're talking about 4 points that our potential client will need to know to be confident in their next decision.
Mhm.
um, and that kind of segues into another interesting marketing focus here too, which is that you never want to sell your final sale. You sell your next steps. A lot of companies talk about themselves, and then they talk about how they make money and say, "Hey, do that thing that makes me money." Rather than saying, like, for us, going back to the relational component of custom software, where
Mhm.
we say, "Hey, you have business expertise, we have software expertise. Let's talk about it and daily figure out the solution to your problems." Right? It would be easy to say, hey, pay us for custom software because it does these things. What we want to sell is the conversation that's free for everybody. It's like, hey, if you think you have a need, then we also want to talk to you about that need completely for free. There's no selling being done. There's no pressure on either side. And it is the first step that leads to any job opportunity that RoleModel has.
Right.
So sell the consultation, not the solution, right? I would be doing our potential clients and our company a disservice if I was trying to brag about the solutions we've done rather than talk about, hey, this is the process for you to figure out how you need to, to get the information you need to make a wise technology decision.
So baby step, essentially.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you'll see salesmen do this a lot too, where they'll get somebody on the phone and that person says, yeah, I'm interested. And the salesman gets all excited and is like, oh, that's awesome. You're interested. Here are all the things we have to offer and this, and you could do this eventually. And then 2 years later, you're going to be here. And the person on the other end of the line is like, man, I just said I was interested. Like, calm down. Versus if you'd hung up the phone on the interest point, then you've left that client, potential client interested and excited for the next meeting, which the next meeting, you can talk about all the next stuff.
Right.
Right. So it's all about a progression and recognizing the successes at the point you're at. Yeah. I
I
don't know
like
if that made sense.
Yeah, that was good. One of the other things that I believe you brought up was the clarity, right? Is a
Sure.
marketer's best friend. And I really like that. And the other thing that you mentioned, right, is like to be like concise. Like, how do you make sure for like, for example, right, like when you're writing an advertisement, obviously this is coming from me, right? Like this is what we do. So it's where I have like the best context, I guess. You're
Sure.
writing an ad and it makes a lot of sense to you when you're writing it, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like when you're in person to person and in person, communication, like we're right now, and I say something, but maybe it doesn't make complete sense to you. But when I'm, online, I don't like when you post something, you're not getting that immediate feedback, right? I don't see your gestures of confusion. I don't really know what's going on. So how can you just pull back, right, as many words as possible from all the jargon, all the like unnecessary words in a sentence or a set of sentences in order to be just as clear as possible so that the other party understands what you're talking about? And how do you assess whether or not that's working?
Yeah. Yeah. That's always an unanswered question, as you know, as in advertising and marketing. So little, I'm a musician. I'm a songwriter. I have a band, and so communication and clever lyrics has always been something that I really appreciate and value. And in the professional field too, that stays the same. I love clever. I love ads that,
Yep.
like an ad that you're like, man, I never would have thought about that. There was a I can't remember, it was a dating app commercial that really stood out to me the other day, and it was said something like the dating app that was made to be deleted. And I was like, dude, that is such a good, that's clever and it's
Yeah.
effective and simple. Well, I think a lot of marketers pursue cleverness too far. I mean, they they go past the point of what clever provides to grabbing attention, to bringing perspective,
Mhm.
and they use it just to try to be that clever, right? And a successful marketer is able to clarify the needs of their client better than the client themselves.
Mhm.
So you win if you can tell the need of somebody better than they could of themselves.
Right.
Well, you don't do that by cleverness. I would much rather you say in 3 words that conveys the same message than something that made me laugh with 2 sentences, right? Because you have to, and especially in the timestamp we're in, where everything is around instant gratification and access to, you're bombarded with information all day long. So there's a very short attention span of your reader.
Right.
And so if you're pursuing cleverness and not clarity, then their attention span will not handle what you're trying to convey. So especially in a business to business field, tell them what they need to know and leave it at that. And if they are serious on their journey for a solution, then they're going to keep reading as long as they know what you're offering.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, clarity is key. I think for us, it's been a struggle just because we want to say so many things that we've done for people. But yeah, like, hey, we do custom software tailored to your business by collaborating with you. It's that simple. Then you know what we do, so the next information will make sense. You've actually paid attention rather than skimming past 5 pages and seeing our company profiles at the end, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, like you said, like cleverness, like I'm a sucker for it too. Like whenever I see a really good ad, and a lot of like direct to consumer brands are really good at this, I think, especially like the bigger ones, like ones they've been, like they have the money to hire really good marketers, copywriters, stuff like that. One of my favorite ones that I saw recently was I don't know if you're familiar with the brand Manscaped. You probably have seen their stuff
Yeah.
before.
Yeah. Yeah.
They have some really, really clever stuff out there. And the cool thing right about them is that they're always like on the edge of violating, like advertising policies on Facebook or Google and stuff like that, because they have that, like, I mean, you're talking about like male grooming, right? So like it could
Right.
get
It's
pretty
edgy.
clever really, really fast, but they're able to just like be right on the edge. And it clicks whenever you see it. And it would be really, really cool if you could see more, B2B companies do that kind of stuff, but also keep it
Yeah.
concise. And I think that's the hard part, is they're not able to, like, they just don't, maybe they don't find, like ways to be clever. And that's when they just cram too much information. Like
Right.
they try too hard and they just miss the boat.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think one of the things that stands out with the example you gave with Manscaped is that the strategy matches the method, in that their target audience appreciates that side of messaging strategy, right?
Mhm.
That is the MO of their target audience, of their client base. And I think a lot of times, talking about the cleverness again, is marketers forget the medium that they're working in. It's like if you're not daily as a marketer trying to get better at discerning and getting to know your target audience, then you're failing. For example, I know for a fact that our target audience, they're confident business owners that are aware of the process in their companies and looking for ways to scale and innovate and get better, and get a new opportunity that isn't currently there. So I know I'm looking for progressive innovators that are competent. I'm not
Mhm.
going to go at them with the same strategy I would go after millennials for a product company on
Right.
Instagram, right? It has to have a certain air of professionalism, naturally so, and that's what we try to reflect in our message, right? Because um, I know that our target audience don't have a lot of time because they're running businesses. So I'm going to value their time and say what I need to say as quickly and briefly as possible, so they can get back to what they need to work at, right? Whereas if I was marketing for Manscaped, I'd lead them on a 20-minute rabbit hole in Instagram where they're playing a video game, and leaving me their
Right.
information at the end of it, right? Um, so it all takes a different strategy depending on what you're trying to accomplish.
And it comes back to what you said earlier, right? Like it's not a one like cookie, cutter solution. Like it's not going
Right.
to be the same ever. And that's one of the things that, like, especially for us, like when new software companies come and want to work with us, they ask, for the playbook or something like that. And the reality is there's no playbook. It's just like,
Right.
we're going to go dive into what you're doing now and see where our solution, is going to be needed and how we're going to be executing that on the spot. It's not going to be, oh, we're going to take the exact same thing we did for these guys and just apply it to you guys, because it's not going to work.
Right.
And it's just like, unless you're doing, unless you guys, for example, were doing custom software for the exact same purpose every single time, you can't have that cookie cutter solution, right? Like you're not going after, I don't know, the perfect use case, right? But you're not going after, I don't know, business owners that own like insurance companies every single day. So the software is going to be different every single time.
Yeah, sure. And there are some solution consistencies between what we do. And a lot of that is reflected in some of the opportunities we've had with, Lightning CAD framework, the design solutions we've done for different construction companies and things like that. We have a lot of examples in healthcare, e-commerce. I mean, the list is very large since we're a custom software company, right? But I think that's wise when you talk about clarity and distinguishing yourself between the competition. It's not always said through words. A lot of times it's brand positioning too, and the things that you don't say. The space, I feel like it's easy to want to shout at our target. I always go back to the separation of messaging. Like, again, like we talked about face-to-face communication. Marketers, man, we have a hard job in trying to anticipate and address people that we will never meet unless we're really successful, that we'll never meet, that we'll never really get feedback from. And so you're right, A/B testing, trying to poll people that have made it all the way through your sales funnel, right? Those are all really important metrics for marketers. Yeah.
Oh, great. Well, Jamey, I feel like we've been here for a while and I don't want to take too much of your time. But that's all really, I feel like everything that we talked about is very practical, right? Like almost any company can take back these things and try to implement them at some level. Yeah. So I appreciate that. A couple of questions. Let's see, these are just super random. What's your favorite movie?
Oh man. Goodness. Catch Me If You Can with Leonardo DiCaprio. I have watched that movie since I was a little kid. I even emulated his scene where he goes in high school and ends up acting like the substitute teacher. I was in college and was working on the whiteboard after a class, and the other class started coming in, and I acted like I taught that class for about 20 minutes before the real professor came in. So that was a good moment in my life. But yeah, great movie. Very, very smart man.
What was your favorite Spanish dish?
Oh. I mean, paella is classic, but my host mom made something called tortilla, which is this potato and egg, basically like pie looking thing. It was fluffy and had like onions in it. I loved it. We had it like every morning. It was great.
That's awesome. Well, thanks so much, Jamey. Where can people find you online?
Yeah, Luis, thanks for the opportunity. It's been a lot of fun. I'm on LinkedIn, Jamey Meeker. The company, please check us out. It's rolemodelsoftware.com. And then the frameworks we talked about is lightningcad.com. And then Doc Designer so docs.design is the new branch of that. So
great. Well, thanks so much, Jamey, for that. Appreciate it. And thank you for the great interview. It was a pleasure having you on here. And if you guys have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to Jamey. Hopefully he can get a chance to reply and anything like that you guys have. And if you're not already, make sure to join the Facebook group, SaaS AdLab. You can find that and follow me on Twitter, on Facebook, LinkedIn, and so on. You can just look for Luis Camacho on there and you'll find me. But thanks so much, Jamey, for the time again. And we'll stay in touch.
Yeah, man. Thanks for the opportunity. Have a good one.
Thanks. You too. Bye-bye.